Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is 9:17 p.m. Sunday night, June 30, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more people so that we can keep everyone, especially across the Caribbean, that's going to be affected by these systems safe. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Leave a comment down below letting me know what that's been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any other related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so considering that it is the last day of June, we have to make the usual last day of the month video where we talk about what was predicted for the entire month last month. So if you remember from the video that was posted on the last day of, I believe it was May for June, it was stated in that video that we would have received some rainfall across portions of Jamaica and the Caribbean in general for that month, as we can see by the greens here on the CFS model, and the other models were definitely in consensus with that. And what ended up happening, we definitely had that rainfall for sure. If you remember, especially early June and then a portion of mid to almost latter part of June, we got some rainfall, some bad weather, some freak storms, some strong winds. We remember all of that. So I guess we could say that definitely verified. But what about what's being forecasted for the month of July? This is the CFS, that's the climate forecast system, and this is valid for July 2024. And we do see the greens right here by the key on the right, and we see it right here across portions of the Caribbean, especially the Leeward Islands in the darker greens, even Jamaica getting in on some of that. But we have to look for consensus to what the other models are showing. And do we see the consensus on the CANCIFS model? Yes, we do. Some rainfall again across portions of the Caribbean, lots of dark greens, even some blues there across portions of Central America and Mexico. They'll definitely use that rainfall because it has been quite hot and dry over there, if you remember the heat wave that they had. And even the NMME model is showing above normal rainfall for the month of July as well. So all three climate models are definitely in consensus with the rainfall that's expected. I know that when they're in consensus like this, the chances are higher for this to happen. So look out for more rain in July. Let's see if it actually unfolds. Even the CARICOF, that's the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, is showing above normal precipitation, above normal rainfall for this period from July through to September. We see Jamaica right here embedded in some blues, Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico getting in on the action as well, the Bahamas, the Leeward and Windward Islands, the ABC Islands, even portions of northeastern South America getting in on the mix of the above normal rainfall. But we see the way above normal rainfall in the darker blues for portions of the Greater Antilles, including Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. So we'll see exactly what unfolds if these maps actually come true, because we know we have to take some of these maps with a grain of salt. They're not always 100% right, but especially with the very warm ocean temperatures and the La Nina that's expected to be here shortly. It's almost here. These forecasts are much more believable. If we take a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center's 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, we can see that that area that had a medium chance of development in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico has now developed to tropical depression number 3, and it is actually expected to become a tropical storm as it heads westward into Mexico. We can also see that area that has a 70% chance of cyclone development to the east of Major Hurricane Beryl, and they've stated here, showers and thunderstorms continue in association with an area of low pressure located several hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions appear conducive for additional development of this system, and a tropical depression is likely to form by the middle part of this week, so maybe Wednesday, Thursday, while it moves generally westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. Interest in the Lesser Antilles should monitor the progress of the system, and we see there that they've given the system a 40% a medium chance of development within the next 48 hours, that's next 2 days, and a 70% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. So we'll definitely see how that goes, and I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what happens. We can also see Hurricane Beryl right here. Beryl is definitely getting ready to bear down on the island. We'll be talking more about her later on. Let us focus on the visible satellite images. First of all, we can definitely see the cloud cover associated with Beryl spinning away and getting ready to make it into portions of the Windward Islands. The clouds associated with that system to the east of Beryl, just like what we saw on the Hurricane Center's map. And we can also see the clouds, even although they're not 100% visible right here, across portions of the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, even sections of Central America getting in on some of that action. If we take a closer look at Hurricane Beryl, we know she's a category 4 as we speak, packing winds of 130 miles per hour. We'll be talking more about that later on, but we definitely see that she's definitely on a westward path, moving a bit north than west. If we actually look at the latitude lines that go from east to west, we can definitely see that she's moving a bit more north in a sense. So it could even make it closer to Barbados than we thought. We'll see exactly what unfolds. Either way, they're definitely going to be in for some bad weather across portions of the Windward Islands tonight. So anywhere from Martinique southward, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Grenada, even Tobago might get in on some of the bad weather. And if we take a look at the latest Doppler radar images from the Barbados radar site, we can even see Beryl starting to come into the image. The very heavy rain associated with her and the spinning right there of the eye wall associated. We know that's where the strongest winds are located, around her eye. And we can see that Barbados definitely gotten on their first fair share of bands of rainfall across the island this evening, and there's a lot more of that to come. Portions of the Windward Islands starting to get in on some of that as well. Dominica, Martinique gotten on some, and there's more to come for even St. Lucia, St. Vincent as we speak. If we take a look, however, at the wind shear plot, we see that Beryl is definitely safe for the time being. It's only when it gets closer to Jamaica that we see more of a stronger wind shear kind of pattern taking shape across Beryl, maybe possibly trying to weaken the system more so from the south than anything else. But for the time being, we see more whites than anything else that indicate little to no wind shear, as we can see by the key on the right. The blues, the greens, the yellows, oranges, and reds, although we're not getting in on that tremendous wind shear, the blue is definitely wind shear enough to weaken the system in a sense. So we see that it's definitely going to be tracking from the eastern to the central Caribbean, but once it gets to the Greater Antilles near Jamaica, that's when it's going to be starting to weaken. If we take a look at the Saharan dust forecast, we're just going to be going out in time, and we actually see the curvature of the dust associated with Beryl right there into portions of the Windward Islands by 11 a.m. on Monday. And then as we go out in time, we start to see her spinning near Jamaica by 2 p.m. on Wednesday as of this map. But we also see that there's definitely some dust in between. So there's definitely some dust in the area to affect sections of the Caribbean in between, before and after these systems. So please ensure that you have your meds ready if you know that you are easily triggered by the Saharan dust, asthma, sinusitis, or any other respiratory illnesses. If we take a look at what the models are showing, so first we're going to be looking at the 12Z Euro, the 12Z GFS, the 18Z Euro, and the 18Z GFS that came out at 12 and 6 p.m. And we know the drill. We're going to be looking at the timestamp right here at the top. We're just going to be going on to the next couple of days, just the next 90 hours. Nothing major, especially considering that we're focusing our attention on Beryl. So we know we're definitely looking for the greens, and the yellows represent that rainfall, and we don't even have to be looking for that because we have the isobars around the airflow pressure, that's Beryl, so it's very easy to track. So we see her here on the Euro model at about 15 on Monday, which is actually 10 a.m. on Monday, definitely making it through the islands as a hurricane, as we saw. Then the 12Z GFS still has it brushing the south coast of Jamaica, the L right there, scraping our coastline. And then by the end of the 90 hours, she should be to the west of the island. That's according to the Eurus 12Z. What does the GFS 12Z show? We see that Beryl should be across portions of the Windward Islands, if not out of there, by 18th on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday. And as we go out in time, we can definitely see her scraping the south coast of Jamaica as well. The airflow pressure right there off to the south, but the heaviest weather associated with her more so off to the north and east as usual. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, the pinks. That's some ridiculous amount of rainfall right there, some bad weather in general. And then by the end of the 90 hours, just as the Eurus 12Z was showing, more so towards the west, even although the Euro has her more south than where we see the GFS. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that. Let us see what the latest runs are showing, the 18Z of the Euro and the GFS. Let's see now. So we see that yes, the forecast for the Windward Islands has it across the islands by 10 a.m. on Monday, going through. What does the Euro show that is different? Alright, we see something similar, still rushing the south coast of the island, so some bad weather is definitely in store. Then off to the west of the island by the end of the 90 hours. What does the GFS show? Let's see if we still have the consensus. Firstly, the Windward Islands, we see her there at 1 p.m. on Monday. Then as we go out in time now, look at the differences. It looks like the area of low pressure is probably clipping the eastern end of the island, if not crossing over the entire island. And we see that most of the bad weather associated with Beryl at that time, it might be off to the east or the north, especially considering that the wind shear is going to be affecting the system at that time. So it would make a lot of sense considering that the system looked so circular and asymmetric at the beginning of the run, and then by the time it gets to Jamaica, more stretched out with the rainfall and the moisture associated with it. Either way, we start to see some contrast. We start to see some differences on the models when it gets to Jamaica regarding the 18Z, which explains the uncertainty with the model forecast from the Hurricane Center. And as a matter of fact, considering that it is 9:30 p.m. right now, which is almost 11 p.m. in on the east coast of the US, they're definitely going to be coming up with an update shortly, and I wouldn't be surprised if this map actually changes when it updates. This is actually the forecast map, but even before we get to the forecast map, we need to talk about the rainfall that's expected with this system. Look at the rainfall. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous rainfall. Look at all the purples, the pinks. That's anywhere from 3 to 6 or even up to 7 inches, and there's a whole line of that that's going to be stretching all the way from the Windward Islands to Jamaica. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. We also see the GFS showing more of the bad weather off to the east of where the center is expected to pass. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that. Either way, back to the map here from the Hurricane Center, we can see that they've updated this as of 8 p.m. this evening. It has Beryl packing winds of 138 miles per hour. She's moving to the west-northwest at 18 miles per hour. And we can see the tropical storm force winds associated with her in the gold colors right here. The hurricane force winds in the brown colors. So it's definitely a small portion. But we definitely see that it is moving towards the west-northwest, still as an M. You know, the M represents major hurricane, and we see that it becomes an H right there to the south of Jamaica, so it should be back to possibly category 2 if not category 1 status, especially considering the wind shear is going to be affecting the system at that time. They've even issued tropical storm watches, as you can see by the yellow, up for portions of the southern Dominican Republic or the southwestern Dominican Republic and portions of southern Haiti. Tropical storm watches in store for Dominica, while we have the blues that represent tropical storm warnings for sections of Martinique, Trinidad, hurricane warnings in red for sections of Barbados, Tobago, Grenada, sections of the Grenadines, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia. So I hope everybody is actually ready for this system. We know how bad hurricanes can be. We don't want to be left behind at all. And if we take a look at the probability in terms of the tropical storm force winds, the consensus is there for 90% chance of sections of the Windward Islands getting in on the brunt of the tropical storm force winds. Then Jamaica next in line with all of these reds that represent anywhere from 70 to 80% chance. That is just ridiculous. And we saw it already, the wind forecast and the watches and warnings. But what I'm highlighting here is the track. We can definitely see that it's been on the track all along, coming in from the east, more so a west northwestward track than a due west. If it was a due west, we would see it more in line with the latitude line right there. So we definitely see that it's definitely on track, pushing its way, and it's going to be continuing on its way towards Jamaica. If we take a look at what was predicted in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, so we're definitely switching gears now. It was stated that we would have received some afternoon rainfall across sections of some northern and western parishes in Jamaica. And what ended up, by the way, northern parishes we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, while western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. So Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? As early as 9:55 a.m. on Sunday, June 30, we had some clouds coming into sections of the east, but more of that rainfall took place across sections of some northern parishes of Portland, sections of St. Mary, got in on some isolated shower and thunderstorm activity. And we have some of our followers on our Instagram page confirming the rainfall. Moya_beauty journal stating raining in Portland right now. That was when that image was posted. Even official_little_black stating raining in St. Mary. Now, just to confirm the rainfall that was predicted. If we take a look at the next post that was made on our Twitter page. By the way, these posts aren't only made here on our Twitter page, but on our Instagram page at weather.jamaica, on our TikTok page at Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page at Weather Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we can definitely see that at that time, 1:15 p.m., we still had some clouds coming into sections of northern Jamaica, and then it started to spill into sections of the west. So it definitely came to fruition. It actually came true, the forecast that was made for northern and western Jamaica, as we saw some thunderstorms across sections of Hanover, St. James, section of St. Anne got in on the mix, not to mention sections of Westmoreland. And then by the end of the day, we actually got some thunderstorms. Not the end of the day, around 2:45 p.m. we saw that some thunderstorms were definitely taking shape across inland areas of St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, sections of St. Elizabeth getting in on the mix, even sections of southern St. James got back in on some of that rainfall before all was said and done. And we definitely have the confirmation. TG Minidal stating, had little drizzle in Mobay, but now the sun is out with a vengeance, hot, bad. Even Mrs_Tanisha_ some more overcast in Westmoreland. Then humble_bro_ stating, yup, some thunderstorm in Hanover. And if we actually take a look at what is being forecasted, as a matter of fact, we are going to get some rainfall tomorrow, and that's due to the tropical wave right here across the central Caribbean. And we can see it even better right here on the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down. So we're going back to the visible. We see the clouds right here associated with that thunderstorm to the south of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. That's definitely going to be bringing more in the way of rainfall to section of Jamaica tomorrow. If you remember yesterday, this tropical wave was definitely affecting sections of the Windward Islands with some thunderstorms. It was definitely, an attention grabber, especially considering that it would have saturated the ground in preparation for Beryl. So that is already a bad situation unfolding, and it looks like Jamaica could be getting in on the same problem. A saturated ground from the tropical wave right before we get in on Beryl on Wednesday. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can definitely see that we still had some isolated showers across portions of some central and western parishes, maybe sections of Kingston, sections of St. Catherine, Clarendon got in on the mix, even sections of Portland was still getting in on some of the activity before all was said and done. But we see that as of the latest infrared satellite images, all of the activity has definitely cleared out. And we're pleased to announce that the Cuban Doppler radar image is back up and running. It was down since the 27th of June. Doppler radar images show the actual rainfall as opposed to satellite images that can show cloud cover. I will know we can have cloud cover around here and not necessarily rainfall, which is why it's good to have the Doppler radar. And the Jamaican Doppler radar has been down, as you know, for quite some time. Hopefully, as Evan Thompson stated, it is back up and running by July. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that. I don't want to have to call him in August wondering what's going on again. But I'm happy that the Cuban Doppler radar is back up and running. I don't have to be depending on the Guantanamo Bay military radar that's only showing Portland, or the Cayman radar that's only showing St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. We want something to show the entire island, and we're glad this is back. As we can see, there's nothing being shown across the island as we speak, just some dots of grains that represent rainfall off towards the west of the island. If we take a look at See Jamaica's YouTube channel for today, this does indeed confirm what was expected across the corporate era. If you don't know by now, See Jamaica actually shows live streams of the corporate era, Kingston, section of the Kingston Harbour Crossroads, Halfway Tree. And we can see here that it was definitely a sunny day for the most part. Some clouds right there up into the hills of St. Andrew. Nothing major. They got in on fair weather just as predicted. And if you'd like to see more streams like this, please ensure that you visit their channel. As a matter of fact, they have live streams right now of Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines in preparation for Beryl. So if you'd like to see some of that, go right there, go on over. As you can see, 3,000 people watching right now on the Barbados radar. That's crazy, because they're definitely going to be getting in on that. And they were definitely showing the landmass in general. We can even hear the crickets in the background, and they were actually showing the satellite images as well as the system was coming in real time. So if you want to see that, go on over and watch. Alright, so if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours across Jamaica, this map does indeed make sense from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology. We got that rainfall across sections of the east as well as sections of the north and the west than anything else, especially the north and the west. Even although this map isn't 100% accurate, it does indeed paint a picture of where we got the most in the way for rainfall. Definitely southern St. James, section of St. Anne, Trelawney, Westmoreland got in on the brunt of the rainfall today, just as predicted. As it relates to the wind, or is this the wind? Oh no, it's not the wind. It's a temperature forecast. Or the temperatures right now. We see that we have 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on Monday, temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. As relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can see that this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Monday. This is actually 1 p.m. on Monday, and Jamaica is right here embedded in some yellows. The yellows represent 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures. I don't know the normal temperatures for the month of July. We're getting into July now. Up to 91 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's about up to what, 32.5, if not 33 degrees Celsius. And we're going to be receiving 1 degree Celsius above normal. So it could be maybe anywhere from 33 to 34 degrees Celsius at most. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Monday, Jamaica should be right here under the word port. but we can see that it is not that vigorous plume that we see closer to Africa, that darker shade of brown that we know represents that tremendous plume that can cause hazy skies or trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons. It's more on the lighter shade than anything else, so we won't even notice it that much at all, especially with the tropical that's going to be in our vicinity. If we take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus that we should be receiving anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights, as we can see by the blue surrounding the island and the blues on the key on the bottom right. And that's because the winds are not going to be that strong at all, averaging anywhere from 10 to 20 knots at most, with those bluish greens and those brighter shades of greens. And we see the winds for the most part coming in somewhat from the east southeast, especially on the south coast, coming in from the east on the northwestern side of the island, from the east southeast on the northeastern side of the island. And we see that the air should be piling up across sections of some northern and western parishes in Jamaica again, so whichever direction the wind is blowing. So we definitely see that's going to be possible. We have the least amount of winds there. That's where we're going to be having that diurnal convection. That's where all of the clouds are going to build again, cumulus clouds becoming medium level rain clouds, if not cumulonimbus upper level clouds for a section of the north and the west. So we can't rule out some more rainfall for those parishes that got in on the rainfall today. And with the upper level winds for tomorrow, that's 1 p.m. on Monday, coming in from the south-southwest, it could mean some more rainfall for northern parishes for sure, if those high cold cloud tops are being blown off towards the north. So today we saw those high cold cloud tops being blown off towards the south than anything else. Tomorrow is going to be a flip of that, especially with a trough across the basin interacting with that tropical wave. It all makes sense. So we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus that the blues that represent rainfall are going to start to come into section of the east as early as 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 6 a.m. Jamaica time. We see St. Thomas and Portland possibly getting on some isolated showers. Then by about 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 10 a.m. Jamaica time, we still see the consensus for Eastern Jamaica to be getting more rainfall, St. Thomas, Portland, even although the Euro is trying to incorporate sections of St. Catherine, Kingston, section of Manchester and Clarendon. I'm more inclined to believe the consensus that we see on both the Euro and the GFS malls for St. Thomas and Portland. And we can see now that there's definitely some rainfall for northern and western Jamaica, just as predicted during the afternoon. This map from the GFS showing 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time. Where do we see the blues that represent rainfall? Across eastern, northern and western Jamaica. So anywhere from Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, section of St. Thomas and Portland might get in on the action as well. You're a bit more robust, incorporating majority of the island, but we know we're inclined to believe what the both of the models are saying. So I'd believe the GFS in a sense. We know the Euro overdoes these things, and it makes sense that the accumulated precipitation forecast maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus in the fact that there's going to be rainfall, not with where the rainfall is expected or the rainfall totals, because the Euro is showing that the total amount of rainfall is expected across Jamaica within the next 24 hours. By the way, keep in mind that both of these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. Not saying that's going to be raining from now all the way up until then, but these are the spots that are going to be picking up the most in the way of rainfall. So central Jamaica with up to 0.3 of an inch of rainfall. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. We're more inclined to believe what the GFS is showing, with that rainfall across the east, 0.13 of an inch of rainfall in St. Thomas, Portland, while across the northwest up to 0.68 of an inch of rainfall. And we're indeed grateful. We're heading into the month of July now. We actually experienced drier patterns during the month of July, believe it or not. I'll bring some more bar graphs tomorrow to show you. There's definitely consensus with that. It's actually a kind of dry period, July, but it's definitely starting out very active, especially with the very warm sea surface temperatures that are causing these systems here and there. This year is definitely breaking records, and we'll definitely take all the rainfall to do something about the heat across Jamaica this month. Alright, so let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see right here that we still have Hurricane Beryl pushing into portions of the Windward Islands. As a matter of fact, let's see if we have the latest update from the Hurricane Center. What time is it? Okay, so it's 9:47 p.m. Still showing that 8 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time update. So more than likely it's going to be coming out at 10 p.m. at Jamaica time. Either way, I'll definitely be posting about it on my other social media platform at that time. And it's not going to be surprising if the system fluctuates in the wind speed, maybe getting up to the 140 that was predicted, or if it even gets lower than the 130. These things happen, especially with a small system like this. It is very fragile, so it could fluctuate in the wind speed. It doesn't mean anything. It could maybe go down in intensity and then ramp back up later on, or ramp up next update and then go down later on. Fluctuations are possible, not to mention in the tracks. So it's not just one straight line. It could wobble or wiggle here and there while it's on its way to that direction. So it doesn't really mean much at all. These are normal. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we can see that we have not much to show as of right now, because majority of the action is on the Barbados radar. We see the feeder bands, the showers and the thunderstorms that affected portion of the island today, and we can definitely see Beryl's eye right there off to the southeast of Barbados, pushing from east to west. So it's definitely, hopefully, going to be missing the island in general. I'm talking about the eye, not the impacts, because wind and rainfall is definitely still coming, and they're definitely in a hurricane warning, so they're definitely going to be experiencing bad weather regardless of if the eye makes landfall. It's more inclined to make the landfall across portions of Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadine Islands right there. Definitely going to be impacting Tobago with some of those strong feeder bands off to the south, so some heavy rainfall is definitely expected there. If we take a look at the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see some rainfall surrounding Florida, section of the Guatemala region, Colombia, the ABC Islands to the north of the ABC Islands, that is. And we also see some rainfall right there to the north of French Guiana. If we take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, Beryl is starting to kick up the seas from the eastern to the central Caribbean, as we can see by those darker blues and purples that represent anywhere from 1.5 to 2 to even up to 2.5 meters. It's going to be even more than that, maybe even up to what, 6 meters or more, 6 meters or more across the eastern Caribbean, wherever Beryl is crossing over across the Windward Islands. And that's because the winds are going to be doing that. The winds, kick up the seawater. It's expected. There's definitely going to be a lot of storm surge, inland flooding taking place because of the water coming off of the sea. And we'll definitely see that both the Euro and the GFS have the system by this is 12 p.m. on Monday. Yes, more so towards the west of the island. That's where the center of the system should be at that time. Let's see if it's updated as yet. Okay, still nothing from the Hurricane Center. Let's look at the rainfall forecast within the next 24 hours. So these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. Not saying that's going to be raining from now all the way up until then. It could be for sections of Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada, where Hurricane Beryl is located. But the other spots are definitely going to be getting on that rainfall, not every hour on the hour, but sometime throughout the day within the next 24 hours. I'm talking about sections of Florida. If they're not already receiving that rainfall right now, it's definitely coming. The Bahamas, Cuba, sections of the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico could get in on some isolated showers. Sections of the Leeward Islands, anywhere from Guadeloupe southward. So Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Grenada, Barbados, sections of Tobago, Trinidad. You can also see some of the activity across sections of Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, sections of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and even sections of Mexico and the Cayman Islands. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. And we know that when they're in consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Or that's it for today. I'll be back with another update bright and early in the morning.